So, what do you want to talk about first, Vanessa?
Let's talk about induction.
We want to talk about induction. Okay, I'm Rosie, by the way.
I'm Vanessa. Should we say a little bit more about ourselves?
Yeah. Well, you go first.
I'm a midwife. I'm an independent midwife.
And you run?
I run an organisation called Daraluz.
It's very good. And I'm Rosie Kelly-Betsos, and I'm a birth light tutor, and I run Enjoy Yoga. And I work as a doula as well, so I do a lot around birth and babies. And actually what we're both very fortunate in being able to do is that we often work with women pre-conception and then go all the way through their pregnancy, through their birth, and then know their babies and them in the postnatal period. So know them, well, they grow up around us, don't they?
Yeah, it's lovely.
Yes, so we get to see the long-term consequences of varying birth choices and things that actually happen at birth. And this was the premise really under which we wanted to start this discussion.
We did, and I've been spending the summer touring festivals, talking to women in England about their birth experiences, and also about being pregnant here and how they're cared for.
It's not been fun, has it?
No, I haven't enjoyed it that much. It's been a little bit traumatic, really.
Yeah.
I've been hearing lots of terrible stories. Not even terrible stories, just sad stories of people not really enjoying their birth experience as they should.
No, and I could definitely second that. I teach a lot of pregnancy yoga classes, and you do birth preparation and pregnancy yoga in Spain, don't you? And seeing how little choice women feel they have during their pregnancy regarding their birth choices is rather frightening. You know, we're talking in a class about things that they can ask for and things that they can even request, you know, without it being a permission issue. But the way that the care system is offered, the way that the antenatal care is offered through
well, if they're getting any antenatal care.
If they're getting any, we're talking about your regular appointments with your midwife, your 15 minutes, your scans, etc. There's not really a focus on supporting women emotionally through the journey of pregnancy and during labour. And most of the women that I know feel that induction is not something they have a choice around. It's something that they have to do if they don't go into labour by some point in 41 weeks up to 42 weeks, although some women are being induced at 40 weeks plus. So it's very different, it varies from hospital to hospital, but one thing we've both seen invariably is that as soon as you start an intervention and a baby is not ready to be born, a uterus is not ready to start working, then you are very likely to end up at best with an epidural and a ventouse delivery, but that could lead to forceps easily and often happening caesareans.
And often women need an epidural because actually, well, if you're induced, the pain of the contractions is really, really intensified massively. So women are begging for an epidural once they've been induced.
Yeah. And I probably want one too, because
me too.
Your hormones, your natural hormones, which, you know, that's where the pain-killing properties of your body kick in, is through your hormones. So, you know, we do release endorphins during labour if we are feeling safe, if we're feeling like we can trust the process, if we feel supported by our team, then we can really relax into it, and we can access the amazing oxytocin, which is the love hormone, and helps everything to open up and to soften, to expand. And, you know, on the riding of the oxytocin wave is also the endorphins, and they're 3 times more powerful than morphine. So we have these natural pain-killing properties, but they're completely nullified.
Well, we need to draw them out of the women. The care often right now isn't drawing the endorphins out of the women, isn't drawing the oxytocin out. Because basically we need the same hormones as when we're making love for birth.
And how do you access those in a clinical room?
Very difficult.
With lots of equipment and people walking in and out?
No. You wouldn't want to be making love with in a room full of people you didn't know.
No.
It's not going to happen.
No.
So we need to really start looking at birth in a completely different way, and to really turn around the tide of this induction thing, because it's not doing the women any favours. It might be doing the drugs companies a few favours.
Yeah, but I mean, I was very
Possibly.
grateful to see in the Daily Mail today that there was an article about actually reducing costs within the NHS, arguably transferring costs on some level, but that's not a bad thing, and moving away from epidurals and caesareans, which has caused a bit of an outcry within the medical sort of circles, the higher echelons, and some women feel that choices are being taken away. But actually, if we could redirect funds towards supporting women emotionally and physically and mentally on their pregnancy journey, and learning about birth, learning about their bodies, learning about how they can actually access that lovely oxytocin and the endorphins, and really make the most of it during labour, learning who will be best help to them during the labour, and looking at doulas and supporting fathers or birthing partners to really feel safe, to feel okay about being in the birthing space and to get the support they need, because we don't even think about the impact of birth on the people in the room, but for dads it's often really a lot more harrowing at times than they had anticipated. And
one of the things we need, I noticed in the workshops that we were doing, is that the thing that we need to bring out in the dads is this need to protect. You could see them really soaking up the atmosphere, listening to the information, feeling inspired, and going out the tent going, I get it, my woman's amazing and I've got to protect her environment, I've got to be there for her, I'm going to really make it the best, I'm going to be her advocate, I'm really going to just go there and protect her. That's what they need to be doing. I mean, it would actually be really good if the crisis got so bad that they really needed to go to the bottom line of what costs the least in birth, and that's for people to have their babies at home.
Yeah,
because that's the cheapest option, which whatever reasons they're doing it for. It wouldn't matter, actually, if they were really promoting home birth because they couldn't afford anything else. How great would that be?
It would be amazing for the majority of women, but one thing we've looked at and identified is the fact that at the moment midwives don't feel very confident to support women at home. Most midwives are coming out of their training and not even experienced a home birth, and one thing anyone who works in a birthing environment at home and sort of natural birth, if you like, knows is how fear can impact a labour, and how any emotion that raises adrenaline can actually impact a labour.
I mean, I feel my job as a midwife is much more, I'm managing the energy. Most women will just give birth. Left in their own space and they're relaxed at home, they will just give birth, but I have to manage the energy, and that's something that the midwives, the training, it completely fails in. Completely fails. They might have a couple of modules in, I don't know actually whether they do.
They don't.
In anything.
They
actually.
don't. They don't.
Maybe we should do one.
Well, that would be the idea. We would love to go into midwifery training colleges and offer modules, but I was talking to Sally Lomas, who's director of Birthlight, one of the directors of Birthlight, and she was saying that she used to go into the Rozy in Cambridge, but the funding was cut. And, when we've got to look also at midwifery training and what money is spent on in midwifery training, because if the majority of women can actually give birth unaided, unassisted, we're not talking here about not having support around, but actually that the woman is empowered. She knows she's birthing her baby. That anyone there is just to hold the energy, support the energy, and to be able to manage things if necessary, but really to trust that overall every woman finds her way. And you know me, I'm into Birthlight, and I'm into the fact that we can learn a lot about different pelvis shapes and different presentations of baby, and how we can do little moves here and there to kind of help baby through. But that's just looking at a positive intervention if necessary, if a labour's going long, if you can see a pattern being established early on that is a sign of positioning or something you can change. But those are the best of non-sort of medical interventions that really, again, give it back to the woman. She's doing it. And this is, I think, part of the conflict also between midwives and doulas, because now doulas manage the energy of a birth. That's what they're going back to, is this sort of spiritual midwifery.
And more doulas have been around for a long time now, so lots of the doulas are really experienced, and I think are going to come to the fore quite soon. and maybe take over a little bit, which I'm sure midwives will really hate, because there's lots of midwives that come out straight of out of their training, and they're more like obstetric nurses than anything else.
Yeah.
They're the old skills aren't taught anymore, which is really, really a shame. Midwives aren't taught about nutrition, which is really crazy. Less and less use of, hands-on skills, much more use of the Doppler, not listening to your intuition, which is very difficult to teach, but it's possible. So, we need to look at the training. And it's crazy that most midwives won't ever have seen a home birth. They won't have seen normal birth at all.
And they're actually quite scared of it.
Yeah, they're terrified of it. Lots of them, especially if they're straight out of school or out of their A-levels, then they're young women who actually don't have very much life experience either, which makes it very difficult to look after people's emotional needs.
Absolutely.
Don't know how it is actually to have a baby. So those it's very difficult for a hospital-trained midwife, unless she's been working in the community or unless she's a very old-school midwife. It's very difficult for a young midwife to go into a home birth situation and feel comfortable with it if it's not what she knows. She's going to be terrified, of course she is.
Absolutely.
And then the women are going to get transferred, and actually it's kind of worse. To start off at home, have all your hopes and joys, and then have a midwife that really can't handle it, bless her, or you don't actually like very much, or you find a bit irritating, you're going to probably have... It does happen. It happens all the time. There isn't one-to-one care offered. You don't know who's coming to your front door. You wouldn't just invite anybody in. You need to know your midwife. You need to like her. You need to like her sense of humour, her smell, her belief systems. It's really important. And maybe out of the community team, there's a couple you really love, and there's a couple that you feel fine about, and maybe there's one that you just don't like. Maybe she comes to your front door. It's really crap.
No, you're right, but I mean, there is a really nice thing going on in terms of a lot of hospitals with home birth units are offering case loading.
Yes, which is really great.
So that is great, but again, the expectations of the paperwork, the boxes that need to be ticked, doesn't really allow for the kind of personal relationship that Ness is talking about, because it involves spending quite a lot of time together.
Yeah, I want to know my women really well, and then I can decide whether I want to be there for them and whether they want me to be there for them. It's a choice. We have a practice of 4 midwives, and women choose, and they all choose different people each time. It's a luxury, but it's a really lovely thing to choose who's going to be there with you.
And they choose their seconds as well.
And they choose their seconds, and a doula as well.
I mean, how amazing would that be? Just picture this for a second. And, I'm sort of taking a bit of what I've learned from Vanessa and Dara Luth in Spain, but imagine that actually antenatal care involved, being able to go to this birthing space every week. It's there for you. It's a class like I offer through Enjoy and Birth, like we offer the pregnancy yoga classes, that you had that as well, but that you had this weekly space that you went to for a couple of hours, and there you had all these midwives and all these holistic health practitioners and people that all work around birth, doulas, coming and sharing the space with you. Maybe there's a specific topic of conversation.
Chatting, hanging out. I mean, somewhere it would be really fantastic to have one on every high street.
Yeah.
Have a midwife centre. In fact, I did see something like that on the telly just recently. I think it was NHS run. Really, it was in a shopping centre somewhere. And it looked really cool. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Would be really, really fabulous.
And just being able to go and ask the questions you've got, and actually also get a perspective around the medical model, because the medical model is a system of care, but it does not acknowledge, to the most part, a whole load of holistic, supportive, complementary therapies that actually could be integrated into the system, and that would be amazing. But we're talking here the value of cranial osteopaths, we're talking about the value of doulas, of reflexologists, of acupuncture.
Of people that smile at you.
Of people that smile at you, and homeopathy, and there's so much out there against homeopathy, and so many people talk about the fact that it's just the people contact that matters. Even if that's what it is, if you're getting an hour and a half to speak to someone and they're really listening to you and seeking to find the best possible vibrational match healing for you, that's something. Can we reinvest in time? Can we actually make time a valuable resource that is worth spending on women? Because that's then what helps them to feel safe about birth. Sure, they really want a cesarean, they really want an epidural, fine, I hear you. Why do you want that? Because I'm scared.
Yeah.
Because of the pain. Okay, fine. Well, why don't we look at all this stuff together? Why don't we discuss this? And if at the end of it you still feel like you want those things, fine. You know, we can go there. We have that resource. But let's really look at this first. And let's say we can actually help you feel more trusting of yourself, more empowered within yourself. Mm-hmm. The effect on baby as well. To feel good and safe about coming into the world.
Well, also just coming out of your birth, just going, yes, I did it. Yeah. I did it, you know, without anybody, in a beautiful, empowered way, having enjoyed it. Whatever happened.
Even if it was hard.
Even if it was really, really hard. If you've got people there that you've really loved and trusted, then it's a beautiful thing, and you feel so proud of yourself when you come out of, you know, a birth where the woman's really had to really go to the edge of her capacities, and then she's done it. It's just so satisfying, and seeing women that really have been quite brutalised by their experience is really terrible. We all deserve to have a really beautiful birth.
Yeah,
it's the most magical thing that will ever happen to you, having your babies.
Even if it does need to be medicalised.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, there's no
even
reason.
a C-section can be really beautiful, as long as it was necessary in the first place. As long as the woman knows that she's going in for major abdominal surgery. I think you're going to stop calling C-section.
They're major abdominal
surgery.
Start
calling it because actually it's so easy, glib to say, oh, she had a C-section, without thinking that actually the long-term effects are really massive on her. It's really hard to breastfeed when you've had a C-section. It's really tough. You're in lots of pain. You've got loads of healing to do. You can't just, you know, pop out of it like you can if you've had a vaginal birth. It's a massive thing, massive. Loads of women get infections. It's miserable. It's really, really miserable. So yeah, we really want to try to avoid women having C-sections.
Yeah,
by not inducing them.
By not inducing them. The induction thing for me, in what I see, is by far the worst thing, because it kind of guarantees a need for the rest.
Well, it also disempowers the women, because they feel actually that their body isn't. But if women are induced, they feel that their body hasn't functioned properly, and that's a terrible way to go into your birth, feeling like you failed.
Yeah,
really,
you have no
really
control over the process. If your body doesn't do what is prescribed here should be done, then they're going to give you the next thing, and then the next thing, and it's against everything.
And it's such a crazy thing to do, that it's such a fine line, that hormonal cocktail. Why are we playing around with it? And actually babies are fine. I've seen babies be completely fine after 43 weeks. 43 and a half weeks. It's like a cake. You put it in the oven and you never know when it quite's going to come out. Our babies know.
Our babies know. And what is it? The reason that they do all these inductions is because the research says that somewhere around 42 weeks, you know, the amount of babies that might not make it through the birth process or actually die in the womb increases. Well, the way I've heard it put to women is increases by 100%. And what this means is you're twice as likely to have a baby die before they're born if you're not induced at 42 weeks. This is what I've heard said to women. And actually, you know, what happens is the number goes up from 1 in 1,000 to 2 in 1,000. And actually, you know, the point with this is that we do have to face that some babies don't make it, some mothers don't make it. But this is incredibly rare. And we need to look at really how many babies really have been saved through induction. Do we know this?
No. And actually statistics don't make any sense, because actually in the last 10 years more and more people have been induced. So actually we haven't got real statistics of actually what happens to women when they're left. We might have statistics in third world countries because women don't get, but actually they don't mean anything to us. Most of our women are just healthy, and they're going to have healthy pregnancies, and then they're going to have their babies.
Yeah. And that is, by and large, that is the most likely thing to happen. But one thing that you've mentioned, and we're nearly at the end of our cup of tea, which is how long this chat will be, is the need to actually give proper nutritional advice, proper nutritional training to midwives and doctors. I've heard so many ridiculous things that are said, and it's worth noting that I've understood that doctors get absolutely no training in nutrition. I think it's one afternoon.
Yeah, and midwives don't either.
And the same
Not
in the
enough.
natural effects of oxytocin. And I'm hearing doctors tell their women to drink lots of milk, that cow's milk is really good for them. And yet we know, anyone who studies nutrition knows that wheat, dairy and sugar all contribute to the body holding water. And this is not good news, in the sense that it increases swelling, it doesn't help with digestion, and it also increases the possibility of your baby not being happy with cow's milk. How do you put it? Like, a baby cow is how many times bigger than a real baby?
Cow's milk's really dodgy for babies.
And
giving babies
we
cow's
expected to drink it or to give it to our babies.
milk. And be able to absorb it.
And they'll be able to digest it. You know, the milk proteins are so much bigger. This is not something we can brush away. It's something we have to look at. And you want women to really take their nutrition seriously. They're feeding their babies. A lot of women just don't realise. They hear, I've got to eat healthy, but don't realise why, what it means, and actually what the real alternatives are. You don't need a whole load of dairy for calcium. You can actually get it from all sorts of other sources. And that should be looked at and discussed.
And again, it's something that can be done in really well designed, really enjoyable antenatal classes. You know, women will find there can be a nutritionist that comes. You know, you can have a drop-in centre, where people can just chat. There'll be really good books. People can inform themselves as to what they're doing. We need to change. We need to have a much more community-based maternity system where women can really be nurtured. Beautiful space, photographs everywhere, images, somewhere they can take their other kids, so they can hang out with their partners. Yeah, they can just get into being pregnant, having a baby. Really like, you know, I mean, so many people research what kind of washing machine they're going to get. They get a witch magazine and then they go on the internet or whatever.
Or a car.
All of these things you spend lots of money on. And actually our birth sometimes we just don't take seriously, or we really just go along with, you know, what we're told without really researching. And the internet's a very difficult place to research because there's just so much information. Much nicer to go to a beautiful place and actually talk to people face to face.
Absolutely, and that totally brings up the issue of informed choice and informed decision making, because from what I've understood of current sort of help out there is from the perspective of our care system, informed choice means that you were given all the information, a woman is given all the information by the NHS or by their doctor to make an informed choice. But this is just one take on things, and actually informed choice means doing your own research, looking at anything that seems to oppose doing one particular thing over another, and examining how relevant the information is to you. It's unique for each person.
Correct information.
Giving correct information.
Actually, you know, information can be desperately biased one way
or the other. And,
Absolutely.
you know, that's where discussion needs, you know, that's why having a space to go and discuss is so important. And you know, that nurturing is two-way. Midwives need to be nurtured. Midwives need to feel good about what they're doing.
Midwives have also, I didn't just speak to women that have been completely traumatised by their births. I also talked to lots of midwives who are really traumatised about working in the NHS. You really feel that their practice isn't safe, that they don't have time for women, that they're not doing the job that they wanted to be doing, because they're just shuffling people around in beds and thinking about filling in forms and protocols. And actually women, you know, with protocols, women aren't having choice, because actually, despite what an experienced midwife knows, she doesn't want to go against the protocol because she'll just get into loads of trouble, as the independents do all the time.
So we touch on the politics of birth.
We touch on politics of birth.
That's another conversation.
It's a whole other conversation.
Have we mentioned everything we wanted to? Yeah, I've nearly finished my tea. It's been a pleasure talking to you, Ness. Oh, I do love talking with you. It's fun. Well, we hope you've enjoyed this.
We're going to do it more.
Yeah, we are going to do this more. We might even involve Skype.
Oh, yeah, that would be really technically challenging for both of us.
Well, it will. But you know, anyone who's got any comments, we are going to put this stuff up, hopefully on YouTube, and hopefully it won't be put down. But you know, this is we're speaking up. We haven't got our boobs out now, but we're mentioning all of this stuff because we want to start a conversation, and there are lots of points of view to consider. But only when they're all put at the table will something coherent and really valuable emerge. And my big bugbear at the moment is the swine flu vaccine, and the fact that there is evidence against it in terms of the threat of miscarriage, and yet this is being massively brushed aside. And I am in the business of collating information. That will be another chat. Ness really doesn't even want to go there, but
vaccinations.
Well, we're not into them, but for lots of reasons. And actually, I'd love to talk with people from the other side of it, with other points of view, that and to see where the truth lies, actually, and to see where information is biased and where we can get a true picture of what's going on. But we have to consider things that aren't currently being considered. It's another conversation. We're just giving you little tasters.
Nice.
So, cup of tea together. Bye.
Fabulous.
What fun.